Welcome to Get Organized at Work. I'm your host, Kayla Fahey-Ahrndt, healthcare leader, mom of three, and your go-to guide for ditching the chaos and taking control of your workday. This is the show where we turn overwhelming to-do lists into clear, actionable plans so you can crush your goals and show up as your best self at work and in your life. Whether you're here for strategies to stay ahead or systems to simplify your workday, you're in the right place. Let's get organized, have some fun, and make this year your best year in your career yet. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to Get Organized at Work podcast. I'm Kayla, I'm your host, and today's episode hits deep. We're on day 9 of the 12 days of leadership, and we're talking about something that every single one of you that I talk to inside of my community or on social media, it always comes back to this. We want to think bigger. We want to become more strategic. We want to move out of the weeds, and we want to build our identity as a strategic leader. If you've ever said, I want to stop being so task-oriented, I want to make better decisions, I want to be seen as someone who thinks critically, not just executes tasks, and I want to influence outcomes at a higher level, then this episode is for you. And because thinking strategically isn't something you're born with, we've got to practice it. It's something you build and embody over time. And today I'm going to walk you through exactly how you can do that. All right, so part 1 of this episode, we're going to talk about why strategic thinking feels hard sometimes. And let's start with something important. Most people struggle with strategic thinking not because they're incapable, but because they basically say they feel overwhelmed. You can't think big picture when you're drowning in tasks and you're in the weeds. You've got to be able to zoom out, but it's really hard when your brain is constantly in go mode. And you definitely cannot think strategically when your calendar is booked at 110% and your brain never gets a rest. Strategic thinking requires space, clarity, slow down processing, intention, and perspective, which is exactly why days 1 through 8 have prepared you for this moment. I got your back. Once you reduce firefighting, build leader standard work, delegate more, create boundaries, and organize your digital world, suddenly your brain can actually think. So remember, strategic thinking isn't about intelligence, how smart you are, how much of a visionary you are. It's really all about mental spaciousness and about creating capacity for yourself. The next thing I want to talk about is the shift from being the doer to the strategic leader. Here's one of the biggest mindset shifts of my leadership era right now. Strategic leaders spend more time on decisions, frameworks, and outcomes, not tasks. As a new or emerging leader, you're used to being the doer, the problem solver, the fixer. But the more responsibility you gain, the less that identity actually serves you. So the shift looks like this. Old thinking is, I'll just do it myself. I got this. I'll create something for this. I can take care of it. Strategic thinking is, what is the right work and who is the right person to own this? Old thinking is, I need to get this task done. And strategic thinking is, what outcome are we trying to achieve? Old thinking would be, I'm responsible for all the details. And strategic thinking is, I'm responsible for the vision, clarity, alignment, and decision-making. Strategic leadership is not about working harder. It's about thinking better. So let's talk through my strategic thinking framework. There are 4 lenses that I use every single week and month as I'm wanting to think more strategically. The first lens is called the vision lens. We want to think about, what are we trying to accomplish long term? So before any task, project, meeting, or decision, you want to pause and ask yourself, what is the vision here? What matters most? Strategic leaders don't start with tasks. They start with direction. They start with the outcome. And this is exactly something that I teach in the Organized Leader Sprint. If you've been listening, you know it's open for enrollment now through December 16th. Bonuses have ended, but you can still snag a spot. We start our 4-week sprint in January 13th. So check it out at kfaconsulting.org/sprint. The second lens is the prioritization lens. What will move the needle? Not every problem is worth solving, and not every task deserves urgency. Not everything is a priority. And I know I talk about this in older podcasts, but the origin of the word priority, it's always been singular until the last 100 years when it's been seen as priorities or plural. So not everything is a priority. We don't have room for multiple priorities sometimes. So you want to ask yourself, what single action would make the biggest impact with the least complexity? And in my community the other day, somebody posted a pick chart. And I was like, what is this? Or what is a pick chart? And they were like, oh, it helps us decide what work to do. And I looked at it and it talked about effort and impact, or how hard is the work and how much bang are we going to get for our buck? And I've always seen that as an effort versus impact matrix. So it was really cool to see that multiple people are using that different type of pick chart or effort versus impact chart. So you can ask yourself, if you have a lot of tasks or actions or tactics that you're thinking through, you can evaluate them by, well, what is the benefit or the return on the investment, and how easy it is to do this work? How long is it going to take for us to realize this impact? Is it something quick win or something we've got to plan for? The third lens is the systems lens. How do we prevent this from happening again? Strategic leaders don't just fix symptoms. They identify patterns, root causes, and system gaps. They think, what process would remove this barrier permanently or sustainably? How can we make this easier for everyone? And the fourth lens is the people lens. Who needs to be involved, informed, or empowered? Strategic thinking always includes people. Not doing it alone, not carrying the weight, not bottlenecking decisions. Real strategic leaders think, who else can own this? Who would be excited? Who has the strength? And who needs development? Hello, my test method from day 3. See how it all connects. All right, part 4 of this episode, just a real story from my leadership era. When I stepped into my system program manager role, I had this moment, and maybe you can relate, where I realized I'm not actually here to be in the weeds. I'm here to think forward. And so I remember sitting in a meeting where everyone kept circling around the same small issue. But internally, I'm thinking, this isn't a task problem. This is a systems problem. And actually, it's a vision problem. And so I said this thing. I said, well, what outcome are we really trying to drive here or achieve here? And that's when the whole conversation shifted. It shifted from this task to this broader vision or the system that we needed to create. And so that's the moment that I realized that strategic thinking really isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking better questions. So here are some questions that strategic leaders ask daily. There are 5 questions I want you to take from me, and you can use every week. So first question is, what matters most this week? Second question, what are the things that only I can do? What can be delegated, automated, and simplified? What decision needs to be made to unblock progress? What outcome am I really driving toward? And these questions will change your leadership identity. Let me give you some tips for the next week as you try to implement the things we've learned today. Here's what I want you to do this week. So some of the practices would be schedule 1 30-minute strategic block on your calendar. Step away from your inbox. Look at your project list. Identify one decision you've been avoiding. Take a zoom out and ask the vision, priority, systems, and people questions. Choose one strategic action and move it forward. Strategic thinking isn't about doing everything right. It's about doing the right thing at the right level. So you're not just a task person, even if it feels that way right now, even if you feel buried in all of your to-dos, you are a strategic leader. You just need the space, questions, and frameworks that help you think at your next level. It's a really good time of year for this, even though I know, at least for me, December feels a little bit like a cluster right now. It will slow down for a bit, and you can regroup for 2026. In fact, you have to. Your calendar, your mental capacity, it all demands it. So if this is exactly what you are looking for, this is what we're going to build in the Organized Leader Sprint. Your rhythms, your decision-making, your clarity, your identity as your strategic leader. So like I said, we're enrolling. You can check it out at kfaconsulting.org/sprint. So day 10 is coming tomorrow. We're talking about boundaries, balance, and burnout prevention. A big one for my high achievers. I get it. I see you. Until then, I want you to know you've got this. I'm cheering you on, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.